Strength isn't about how much you handle before you break. It's about how much you can rise up after you felt like you've been broken. So just when you think it's over, right? It's not about the strength that you have to think, I'm going to break through this. No, it's the strength that you have when it's done and you go, okay, I made it through this. Remember that song, I made it through the rain? You know, and you're just like, you've made it through so much. No matter how old you are, your life has been a series of events, and strength isn't about how much you handle before you break. It's about how you can rise up after you felt like you've been broken. Can anyone relate to that? So that means sometimes I have to admit to myself that I have flaws in my thinking because I forget to remember that. Are you with me? A lot of times we forget to remind, R-E, capital M, God's mind. We forget to remind ourselves of what we know about ourselves spiritually because we get so caught up in what's going on in everyday life. So that's one of my flaws. So I came up with a new term, and I happened to find it online, which was good. Flawsome. You know when people go, oh my God, you're awesome, and you think, people go, oh my God, you're awesome. And I'm like, if you only knew me, you wouldn't think that. You know, because I have my flaws. So now we have a new adjective, flawsome, an individual who embraces their flaws and knows they're awesome regardless. So you're all so flawsome, aren't you? Say to your neighbor, you are flawsome. You are just flawsome. There we go. Someone recently commented on my lack of spiritual response to a situation in my life. They always go, well, you're a minister. You should respond differently. I'm like, I'm a human being. So I said, look, there will be times when I'm not a good example, and in those times, just look at me as a fabulous warning. Because no matter how long you've been in this teaching, no matter where you are on your spiritual journey, there's an expectation that you have a certain degree of I don't know, let it go. I can go with the flow. But yet part of us gets to that place and something just gets under your door. Usually an in-law. Something gets under, or an HOA. That's another one. Should I keep going? Because I know you can identify with it. Something gets underneath you a little bit and you lose that spiritual component just for a second. It's not gone forever, but in that moment, when you respond, you go, oh, I shouldn't have said that way. So just remember, sometimes you're a fabulous warning to people that no matter where they are in their spiritual journey, everybody's going to trip up, right? All right, next slide, please. Staying positive does not mean that things will turn out okay. Rather, it's knowing that you will be okay no matter how things turn out. That one's a challenge. Because when we're in the process, we're saying, I need to stay positive so things are going to turn out a certain way. And there's this great energy around that. But sometimes when it doesn't turn out that way, you still have to know, I'm going to be okay no matter what happens here. The universe has a plan for me, and I have a plan for the universe, and we're going to co-create together to manifest whatever is necessary for me to keep moving through whatever experience I want to move through, no matter how difficult. Are you with me? Next one, please. Don't let the entire staircase overwhelm you. Just focus on that first step. Back in Palm Desert, I would do a lot of counseling for people. We were, Palm Desert's like God's waiting room, right? So I would do a lot of counseling with people who had various illnesses and things. And Jesse, hold on. Can I turn this on? Yeah. Does anyone else suffer from personal summers? I'm always having personal summers. I would talk to people who are going into chemotherapy. I would talk to people who are going into some sort of therapy for becoming well again. And they would talk about it in its aggregate. And I would say to them, don't talk in the aggregate, just take the first step. You know, the first step's always the most difficult one. Once I'm in, okay? And many times when you're walking through a situation like that, it's not a good idea to play out the aggregate. It's a good idea to stay in the moment, stay focused, and bless what's ever happening. One thing I wanted to talk about real quick, I'm just going to add this in, which you know I have a hard time focusing, can you tell? So one of the things that I had was, just before I left, was a woman who was having chemotherapy, and she said, I hate it. I just absolutely hate it. And I said, ooh. And then when she would call the building that she went, I call it the pit. I have to go to the pit, and I have to get this stuff, and I hate it. I said, you know what? Let's turn that around, because if you want this to work, as unpleasant as it is, you have to bless it while you're going through it, or your body's saying, I don't want this. There's a mental rejection of what you're going through and what you're doing. So bless that process, even though sometimes it's really uncomfortable. Sometimes you get nauseous or sick or whatever it is, we have to bless the process as we're going through it. Otherwise, our mind is saying, I don't want this to work because I hate this. Are you following me? So it's a state of mind. So just when you think it's over, don't say those kind of words. You say those words like, I am blessing everything that's happening right now. Next one, please. There are not winners and losers. There are winners and learners. Since that time, I need to add, stop trying to love the warning signs out of people. By the way, I have your talking points for when you're leaving today. But a lot of people look at life as winners and losers. You know, I didn't get something, so I'm a loser. No, you're a learner. There's winners and learners. And one of the best things I found lately is I see a lot of red flags in people. Does anyone ever see those? Are you with me? And you go, ooh, I'm seeing the red flags. And then part of our spiritual, metaphysical upbringing is we just need to accept them and love them through it. Well, you're right about one point. We need to love them through it, but it's okay not to hang out with them. Just because you shared a womb doesn't necessarily mean that you always have to share dinner. Right? I say that because holidays are coming up, right? So sometimes it's hard to love the warning signs out, so you just have to heed them and go, I don't want to make the same mistake twice. I will love them and bless them on their journey, because I've always said some people bless us by coming and others by going. Have you had those people in your life? Yeah. Some people look better from behind walking out the door. Totally agree. Next one, please. One of the greatest lessons in life is that everything I've ever lost has been replaced with something better. I never lack. I just transition. The things that I thought were lost, and I mean heartfelt lost, where you thought, oh my God, this is painful, this hurts. It set me up for some sort of a transition into something else. Now, when you're in the middle of it, it can feel very uncomfortable because you don't know what that thing is yet. It's not seen by you yet. That's when you have to walk in faith and not fear, knowing that whatever's going to come forward in my life is going to fill that vacancy and then some. But that has to be your mantra. That has to be your belief. When we hang on to the old things that have already departed, what we're saying is to the universe, I don't want anything else new in my life. There has to be remember when we did the prayer thing, when we all danced through prayer? There has to be this openness and receptivity to something greater moving into our experience. We don't lack, we're transitioning. Next one, please. Maybe the journey isn't so much about becoming anything. This is from Greg Braden. Maybe it's about unbecoming everything that isn't really you, so you can be who you were meant to be in the first place. We talk about becoming. I was thinking about when I was a kid, superheroes were big. They're big now. I don't pay attention to them, but they're big. You know, Spider-Man, Superman. And, you know, a little kid always has that imagination. And when they put that I remember looking at my nephew. He put that Superman shirt on. He thought he was Superman. He tried to fly. It didn't work very well, but he had no fear in that, right? Where is that person that we used to have in there, that little superhero? They're under there somewhere. And maybe we need to really kind of deprogram all the layers that we've built up over time and realize that underneath there, inside of you, you have everything you've ever needed. And you have access to whatever you might need to move you forward in any situation. We live in a world of expansion, not contraction. So if that's the case, then I know that I will not return to where I was, but I can recognize those places in my life where I have become something I don't want to become. Have you ever done that? None of you have ever lost your temper before, have you? How many of you have kids? Then I can guarantee you've lost your temper. All of you, all of us. At some point in time, we've lost our cool. We have to remember that that's not who we don't want to become more of that. We just made a mistake, and we move on. Next, please. Smooth seas don't make skillful sailors. When you encounter a wave, it's not an obstacle, but an opportunity to learn about yourself, prove your strength, develop new skills, and to come out wiser. Whenever you see the wave coming or you turn around and it hits you, just ride the wave. You're not going to be okay. You're already okay. In fact, you're getting stronger and wiser. Smooth seas don't make for great sailors. It's when you reach the difficulty that you really know who you are. It's when you hit those times. And I love the optimism of a surfer. You know that surfers, that they go out there and they paddle out there really early in the morning in their little wetsuits, and you're thinking, you're crazy, you're out there in the middle, you got to get eaten by a shark. But they sit there and they wait for the next wave. One's coming, isn't it? There's this surfer's optimism that the good one is just around the corner. And it may not, so they don't ride this one because it doesn't look good, but they're waiting and they know that something bigger and better is coming. So it's that surfer's optimism that we should maybe want to tap into and realize that we already have what we need to be okay. Can you get the theme today that I'm trying to get? I want you to know that when we're always searching for something, we forget to recognize the things that we've already learned. We set those aside because they seem so primary, but we have to remind ourselves that this is indeed who we are. Next one. Many people continue to try to find themselves, but that's not how it works. You aren't a $20 bill you left in a pocket. You are not lost. There's nothing to find. You're already there. You're not lost. How could you get lost? Okay, does this make sense? God lost me. Does that add up to you? How can you ever be lost if you believe that you are part of this divine plan, this divine universe? You can never be lost because God is always present and you are always present in there. You are never lost, ever lost. Now, you may be confused. And I'm confused when I go in the kitchen. I go, what am I doing here? What was I thinking? Anybody? Yeah. I'm finding that out in stoplights, but we'll talk about that later. Okay, next one, please. Your true self is right there, buried under cultural conditioning, other people's opinions, and inaccurate conclusions you drew as a kid that became your beliefs about who you are. Finding yourself is actually returning to yourself. It's about unlearning, excavating, and remembering who you were before the outer world got its hands on you. Is this making sense today? I was thinking back. My teachings of unity pop up a lot now, which is interesting because when I was teaching at CSL, I kind of put that on the back burner. But my unity teachings keep popping up now that I'm speaking at Unity churches. I'm doing another one in Pompano next week. And what I've realized is I think I shared this with you last time I was here. My mother would always say, you are Christ's ideas manifested in a human being, right? That's a pretty lofty thing to say to a kid, right? And of course, I would go and say that to my friends who went to more traditional churches. And you can imagine how that went over. And I can't go over to their house and play anymore because I'm part of a satanic ritual, is what they thought. But it is awful lofty to think that we are Christ's ideas manifested in human form. But we are. That's who you are. Do you grab that authority? Do you grab that authority in your life? Do you grab that responsibility? Can you grasp that and say, okay, yes, I am? And a lot of that means we have to forget, again, we go back to forgetting the layers of things that have happened to make us feel like we're not. There's so many. All you have to do is turn on a TV and see an ad for any prescription drug. Did you wake up today? Oh my God, I better Google this on WebMD, right? All the symptoms that they give, I have to skip over those now because I think, I have like 14 things that he said in a matter of seconds. But that's not the truth of who I am. So don't become those things. And I always say to people, don't become your side effects. Have you ever read the side effects on a package? Yeah, I have family members that like to read the side effects on packages. And I'm like, don't do that. If something pops up, then you talk about it. But don't, because then you expect it. It's almost like a prayer. You're reading, okay, this is what's going to happen. No. Just, take it easy. Talk to your doctor, right? I'm not giving you medical advice, but I'm certainly saying don't focus on the side effects because you'll experience them. Next one, please. You are given a choice, evolve or remain. If you choose to remain unchanged, you will be presented with the same challenges, the same routine, the same storms, the same situations until you learn from them, until you love yourself to say no more, until you choose change. The resistance to moving into change, no matter what your age, will keep you from expanding. You cannot contract yourself into good. You can't shrink yourself into good. The community here is the same way. You can't contract and shrink, you expand and grow and thrive. It's the same thing in your life and my life. We take that opportunity to look at those situations, but we get the sameness. So if you say to yourself, I'm bored in my life, there's two things that happen when I'm bored in my life. I'm boring, number one. Number two, I've lost my imagination of things that can actually stimulate me into something better, and I choose to remain in the same place, doing the same thing, going to the same restaurants. Anybody? It's so funny, we live in Fort Lauderdale, and there are hundreds of restaurants, of which we go to probably 4. And we order the same thing off the menu. Flossom. Just flossom. And then I tell myself, I'm like, okay, we're going to make a commitment. We're going to go and make a change. We're going to go to a different place. And then we get in the car, and I'm like, yeah, I'm always sweating. Yeah, I'm personal summer. I get too excited. I get very excited. It's distracting. I'm sorry. So if you're experiencing the same thing day in and day out, see the red flag or the yellow flag in that. If life becomes too monotonous, change becomes more difficult. We have to continue to remain change agents, if you will. People who are willing to step into the unknown with faith, not fear. Next one, please. If you choose to change and evolve, you will connect with the strength within you. You will explore what lies outside the comfort zone. You will awaken to love. You will become, you will be. You have everything you need. Choose to evolve. It's not over. I know a lot of people that are younger than, they're in their 25s, 30s, 40s, and they've already gone to Forest Lawn in their heads. You know? And I know some people who have really given up far too soon in their life experience. And once they've given up, their physical body begins to show that they've given up. Things start to pop up where that it's more and more difficult to be more vibrant. So I would say to you, you will become who you are meant to become as long as you continue to evolve. And I bless each and every one of you for coming here today because you've made a choice to evolve. That's what happens here at this community. That's what I love about New Thought Movement. We don't teach you to go backwards. We teach you to evolve, to grow, and to change. Because it's just when you think it's over, there's always something on the horizon for you to do. Choose to evolve. And so ends your lesson. Thank you, everybody.